At around about the age of 10, my father lost his ability to work, so my mother for the first time needed to work. We knocked on various doors, and this one particular one actually opened because there was a sign outside saying sewing machine is wanted. And so my heart lifted, saying, "Mum, let's try this one before we set off home." We knocked on the door and the white lady answered. She looked us up and down, both of us with our dupattas but not without our heads covered, as was the custom then. And the lady said, "What did we want?" And I said, "Well, my mum's a really good machinist and I've seen your sign. We'd like to apply." And she said, "Oh, well, you'll have to fill in an application form." I said, "Well, my mother doesn't write, so I'll fill it in for her." And the lady said, "Oh, no, that you can't do that. She has to fill it in." And so I said, "Why can't we do it this way?" And she turned around and she was wanting to close the door, and I put my foot in the doorway, wanting an answer. I wasn't going to be prepared to leave without an answer to this. And she said, "Because personnel said so."
Doors closed. Loneliness became an experience. It was something that seemed to hover over me. And there are times when I would willingly go into that space, find that space, seek out that solitude, embrace it. So for me, loneliness also became a sanctuary, and it's something that I continue to need and seek. Solitude is therapeutic, it can be cathartic for me, and out of that I continue to want to open doors, see what opportunities lie beyond those doors, and use it as a positive and constructive way forward in my life.
The relationship ended really badly because he used to torture me very, very badly, physically, mentally. So it was non-stop torture during my whole pregnancy. When my child born, it was actually too much for me to cope with that torture when I saw that he started shouting and screaming to my son. And when he tried to prove that I've got mental health problem just because he wanted to take my son away from me. So it was too much for me that I could not stay with that person anymore. I thought, I am actually not a person to end up like that and seeing my son being tortured in front of my eyes. So I had to leave him with my 3-month-old baby, but when I left the house, I had nothing with me. There's no money, I had no food, I had no shelter. I've been to every single door where I need to knock, but nobody has supported me and nobody has helped me.
My mother couldn't read or write. Some people would say she was illiterate, but others would say unlettered, as I would say that myself, as she was knowledgeable in other ways and skilled in many ways, and would navigate in her own way through life.
I learned from my dad that with education you can go everywhere, and if you have a strong education or a strong knowledge, you can achieve whatever you want in this world. So for me, education is part of my life every day. Most of the time when I do those courses, I always think of my family and my kids. So my knowledge is to build my kids and raise them, to give them a better future, a better life. And this is how I've been raised actually. I've been raised to achieve something in this world, and this is how I want to end my life. I don't want to give up school or learning until the day I die.
They ask me for my previous experiences, which I don't have, because I sacrificed those long years, 16, 17 long years for my family, for my kids, to raise them. I was a mother, I was a caretaker, I was a cook, I was a driver, I was a finance manager, I was a budgeting person, I was a bank person. This is not considered as a work experience in this system. I will try, keep on trying to make my note, to make myself, my identity as Aisha.
This needs to end somewhere. So I wanted to stand up for myself and for my son. In 2016, July, I joined in a political party, and within 6 months, I stood in election and getting 68% vote became a parish councillor in one of the council. And that was my first motive, that I want to be in a position where actually people will listen to me. And within another year, I stood in the local election and became a bar councillor of Milton Keynes Council, because that was the biggest achievement for me in my career and in my life. I thought that is the position where I can actually speak for myself, for my son, and for the others who are suffering like me, and who doesn't have any voice, or where they have no people who are listening to them.
No challenge is too great to overcome. That when you have determination and you have the desire to overcome them, and you can see that some of these barriers are artificial, and that some of it is about you, but some of it is about the barriers that others place in front of you.